See what happens.
Rest assured, you will get that approval.
You will receive that.
You hear me now?
They're on now.
Do we need to repeat anything? Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I trust everybody had a good vacation. We've been gone for a while. And I know several of us had a chance to get a little R&R, but good to be back. Take care of the business of this city. We're down to awards, recognition of special guests, communications. Any council member have any? Councilman Jefferson.
Well, I'll just briefly say, and probably repeat it tomorrow, but I do want to thank everyone who participated in the Great American Cleanup. I thought it went really well. I know in my district we had several groups that participated, and some that competed, some that did it on their own, some that did all kind of different projects. And one of the projects I was in, I think is one I'd like to see some other groups take up from time to time. And what we did is cleaned out the gutters and overlap of the, grass and stuff grows out into the gutter, goes out into the street. This street we cleaned out is literally 2.5 to 4 feet wider in parts than it was before, because that's how much grass had grown into it. We couldn't even as a city maintain it in the condition that it was, but now that it's sort of in maintainable shape, the infrastructure was actually in good condition underneath. It's just you couldn't see it, And so, getting caught up on that kind of thing helps us as a current city government to maintain things better. So really thankful to everybody for their participation, and certainly want to encourage people to kind of look at those things that their volunteer groups might be able to do that can help us do a better job in the long run.
Very good. And let me also extend my appreciation actually to everybody within the city for such a outstanding Great American Cleanup Day. I think as we was at the fairgrounds that afternoon, I think it was 32 tons of garbage trash.
32,000.
32,000
Pounds.
pounds.
Yes, sir.
32,000 pounds.
15,000.
That was brought to the fairground for weighing as a result of the efforts of neighborhood groups and other groups throughout the city. And I want to give a special thank you to the residents of my district, actually the MLK area, which came in first with the amount of trash debris that was weighed. The Green Oaks alumni came in third. And I think we would have came in first or second from Cherokee Park if we had our stuff weighed. We had so much, we had it in about 4 different trucks. And may I thank you for the city departments that you allowed to come and help us. We was out in Cherokee Bayou, which was one of the most challenged areas to clean on Saturday. And one for the presence and the committed work of the Shreveport Police Department and members of the Shreveport Fire Department, I don't think we would have succeeded.
Absolutely.
Because they brought their expertise in how to, even remove TVs out of ponds.
Out of the pond, amen.
So, but overall, the residents, the volunteers all did a great job, and I think we got it to a point that it should not return. That's my hope, that we won't ever allow that pond, that area of my district of Cherokee Park, Highland Park, to get that way again. So thank you, and thank all of your department heads for me.
Thank you.
Okay, and there's some other things we'll talk about at the end of the meeting regarding questions to your department heads. Councilman Jenkins.
I'd like to recognize Rob Broussard. I think he had a community invitation for us that he wanted to come up and tell us about, or no? Or it's an issue on the agenda. Okay.
But your meeting will be tomorrow night.
I appreciate that, Oliver. Rob Broussard, 451 Sanford, Shreveport, Louisiana. On behalf of the Broadmoor Neighborhood Association, we will have our Broadmoor Neighborhood Meeting tomorrow night, starting at 6:30 at the Broadmoor Presbyterian Church. Tomorrow night, we have a young lady that's going to address internet crime and scams that are going on, and we will have a representative from the White Collar Crime Division that will come and speak about what neighbors need to do. The following month, May the 10th, we have got plans underway to have a variety of local organizations participate in a symposium. We've invited the FBI, the IRS special agents, the Western District of the United States, our own attorney from the city of Shreveport, the Sheriff's Department, to have a symposium to describe jurisdictional responsibilities, especially those concerning public corruption. We've seen all over the newspaper and social media where everybody points the fingers at each other, so we felt like it was a good time to have a meeting where the citizens can be educated and learn exactly what each agency's responsibilities are. Of course, we will invite all of the city council members and the rest of the citizens in Shreveport to come and join us in that educational opportunity. Thank you, and appreciate seeing you tomorrow night.
Thank you, sir. And we appreciate you coming down, and I wish we can get more of our community groups to come down and just let us know what's going on in their communities as well. Okay, madam, any other comments or recognitions from the council? Not, Madam Mayor?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have nothing today.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
will have some just announcements tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, reports. Do we have any questions or requests of proper standards? Thank you, Mr. Green. I see no hands. Thank you. Ms. Crawford, we'll be having.
You have no property standards later in the meeting either, so this is
Oh, wow.
the first time in a long
Well, I
time.
mean,
Mr. Green,
Wow.
go back to work.
Hey, we'll be out here in 30 minutes. Let's get out of here. Shucks.
I actually did have a real interesting call with somebody today that I'd like to talk to you about offline. It's nothing you did wrong, but I just need some info.
The Revenue Collections Plan and Implementation Report the council should have received earlier last week, and the surety bond should have been provided to you from the
We have received
city
those.
attorney's
Thank you. Thank you very
office.
much. And in regards to a public hearing, I see that we have one tomorrow. You want to continue, Mr. Crawford?
Yeah, I don't have any information on the public hearing.
There is none.
Great.
Oh, well, that's even better. Okay. We'll continue otherwise.
We don't have any items currently on the document that I'm looking at to add to the legislation. We do have a couple of confirmations and appointments. Assistant City Attorney Sarah Smith and Assistant City Attorney Sharon Douglas.
Are those ladies present? please?
Yes, they are.
If they'll both stand and come up, Will.
Afternoon, members of the council, mayor, CAO Crawford. Just wanted to introduce to you Ms. Sharon Faye Douglas and Ms. Sarah Smith. They will be, hopefully, of course, with the confirmation of the city council, joining the team in the office of the city attorney's office. They will be housed at our city court location, and I think they're both good hires and excited for them to join our team. So I'll let them introduce themselves to you if you have any questions for them as well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sharon Faye Douglas, and as the city attorney just said, I'm very excited at the opportunity to join the team.
Good.
My name is Sarah Smith. I'm a longtime resident of Shreveport, born and raised in the area. Went to Centenary College, graduated there. I've been a licensed attorney to practice in Louisiana since 2010, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity as well.
Good. Well, certainly we received you all's resumes. Very, very impressive, very qualified to work within this, our city attorney's department. He's been doing a great job. One of the things he's been doing is finding money, so I hope y'all know that hunt for money. But we welcome this opportunity to consider you for confirmation on tomorrow. and we'll give you our greatest consideration. Thank you very kindly. Any questions from any other councilman?
Good resumes, for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so
I will
much.
say also that when I participated in the Inn of Court last year, that is a group that answers interesting legal challenges, group of attorneys that get together and they act out scenarios. Attorney Smith there was assigned a character to portray in the role when we talked about Little Free Libraries was their subject last year.
Oh, boy.
I would say not only was I impressed with her ability to point out interesting legal arguments, but also her humor. She did it well.
Great, great. All right. Okay, Mr. Crowley, you may continue.
Certainly, we're down to the consent agenda legislation. There's no introductions for routine ordinances and resolutions. We'll go down to adopting ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 62 ratifies the suspension of certain provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances relative to the sale, dispensing, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, 4801 Line Avenue for Wine Country Bistro's Wine and Swine event. Resolution 63 suspends the effects of certain provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 of the City of Shreveport of the Code of Ordinances on Saturday, June 4th, 2016 for the Cross Lake Flotilla. Resolution 64 suspends the effects of certain provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances retroactively on Saturday, April the 2nd, 2016, and on Saturday, May the 14th, 2016, Saturday, June 11th, 2016, Saturday, August the 13th, 2016, Saturday, August the 27th, 2016, and Sunday, October the 9th, 2016, in connection with the fundraising efforts by Shreveport Moose Lodge, number 2239. Resolution 65 suspends provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances relative to the sale, dispensing, and consumption of alcoholic beverages at Corner Lounge for the Pink Party. And then Resolution 66 authorizes the mayor to execute an act of release of a 5-foot utility servitude in the Providence Phase 2, Unit D subdivision, Section 20, T16 North, R13 West. Resolution 67 declares the city's interest in certain adjudicated properties as surplus. Resolution 68 authorizes David S. Spann and Allison S. Spann, located at 9990 Wallace Lake Road, to connect to the water and sewer systems of the city of Shreveport. Resolution 73 suspends provisions of Chapter 42, 78, 86, and 106 of the Shreveport Code of Ordinances relative to operations of lemonade stands on Saturday, April the 30th, 2016. And then Resolution 74 congratulates the New Testament United Pentecostal Church on the 60th anniversary of the founding of the church.
Okay, thank
Lots
you.
of alcohol.
And I don't think relative to the New Testament United.
I
don't think so either.
Any questions or comments regarding, Mr. Everson?
I hate to have to do this, but I got a call a few minutes ago about another event coming up soon that we probably won't meet before the next one. And it is Crawfish with Clergy. So we know the clergy is there, but they need another Chapter 10 revision as well. So I may be trying to add another one on tomorrow. If that's okay.
You know, obviously, we talk about this periodically. And I do feel that at a certain level, the initiative needs to come from a lot of support from the city attorney's office on how we can come up with maybe a more realistic way of dealing with these Chapter 10s. And I'm not, this is more of a future test type of thing, just because, and I'm all for it when we do it. I'm just saying the fact that we have 5 to 10 on every consent agenda seems that maybe we need to adapt our ordinances to what we normally operate in those constraints today. So any progress in that direction would be greatly appreciated.
Remember when we used to have to vote on each one of them separately too?
Yeah.
I mean, that would thankfully they're on the
And I
consent
understand why,
agenda,
I
at least.
understand why the ordinance was written when it was written, the way it was written, but obviously, the world has evolved some since then, and we need to.
I'm not understanding, Mr. Chairman, something.
Please.
Councilman Jenkins, I'm not understanding what the problem is on this. I mean, if the Shreveport Police Department doesn't object to it, I mean, are you saying it's just timely, untimely, or? I don't understand
I'm saying that.
what would be the objection.
I mean, there could be a system in place where either the Shreveport Police Department has notified it and they can, in their own right, agree to this, or some other type of provision so that there's what I would call somewhat of an administrative burden
Right.
to
okay, I
bring this
understand.
forward every time when, as long as I can remember, we have never voted against one of them. So that's all I'm not advocating dramatic change, I'm just, where maybe we
Making
can do
it
a.
more administrative.
Yes,
Okay.
and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, you
It's
probably
not-
already thought about this.
It's not a problem. We've talked about this as well. I think that it would be better served for the city to have or adopt a policy where it's more or strictly administrative. It allows us to make sure that we're in compliance with all the law and make sure that we're not putting any particular department in a very precarious position with having to ratify certain provisions. So it is something that the mayor's instructed us to go ahead and begin drafting some legislation to try and remedy this particular issue.
Okay. Great minds think alike.
Right, Mr. Attorney, I'm thinking within the concept of the charter. Will we be somewhat releasing any responsibility as relates to hearing and approving things that somebody may object to?
No, sir. The way the ordinance would be drafted would be to create a law that would be legislatively passed through the city council that would allow a process for an administrative procedure to remedy that issue of having to go in and get these variances or get the permission, proper, I don't want to call it suspension, because ultimately the goal is to draft an ordinance that precludes us from having to suspend certain provisions of the ordinances. And so it will provide for an administrative process that's approved by the council for us to handle those situations when they come up. Like Councilman Everson says, they're becoming more frequent, and the more the times that we have to issue or deal with this each time it progressively puts us, to me, in a very precarious position that we don't want to be in. And
And if I could add to it, my concern is the retroactive and the ratifying.
right.
I mean, certainly we don't want any authority passed to the mayor that she doesn't need. I have too much now, okay? When I look at some of these that are retroactive, it's already occurred. And so you're approving something that has already happened. That bothers me, because I feel like if something would happen in those incidents, and I'm just trying to make that recommendation to you all, if something would happen in those events, then we're going to be responsible, and you would not have approved it. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
And so, when I think about the ratification, I think about stuff that has already occurred.
Right.
So maybe you could have a better process. So sometimes the organizations don't submit these in a timely fashion, and they ask you to let them go ahead and do it, but ratify it because you haven't met. You don't have a meeting set. And so, I mean, those are the ones that I worry about, because we're still vulnerable if something should happen and you haven't approved them to actually have the event with the alcoholic beverage.
And that's something that the Clerical Council and I have discussed, and it's sort of like, I mean, there's some on here that met the criteria because they got them in.
Yes, right.
But then, like Councilman Efferson just said, there's one that say, I forgot my eyes is coming up. But certainly, we look at all aspects of the safety of it, the continuity of what we try to do within this spam of allowing, different groups to do what they do, and they have a record of being safe with it. Mm-hmm. But I do agree, Mayor, that, and let me just say that before we allow them to do it and then ratify it, that all the council members are polled, are being presented with.
Yeah, we're being polled.
Yeah, they're being polled, and they know what's on the council. Clerk contacts everybody and tell us what it is that's going on, and asks us, do we have any objection to it? And that's when he pretty much give the okay, as long as the majority of the council have said, okay, we have no problem with it. Now, that may or may not be in line or proper, but I'm trusting that after he does that, he contacts the administration to let them know what's going on. But I agree that this is the after fact are the ones that I'm more concerned with also. So So consider all that when you start looking at
Yes, sir.
language within
Yes, sir.
the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think.
Oh, I was just, thank you so much, Chairman. I was just going to say briefly that, I think one of the other things that isn't causing us an immediate problem, but there's just a conceptual problem, is that we exempt this law more than we probably write tickets for violating this law. So, I mean, clearly the law itself doesn't really reflect the community value or the public protection that was originally meant to come from it. And that's not to say that there wasn't a good reason to do it in the beginning and that there's not still a good reason to have something there now, but the way we phrased it, we're exempting it more than we're enforcing it. And so something there bears a little more looking into. And I appreciate the city attorney. I know that they have looked into that issue in some detail, as well as the council clerk, I know, has collected a lot of information to use as reference. So I trust that they'll come up with something good.
Yeah, I trust so. But again, the reason that we are more favorable to adopting it is because it's revenue generating.
It is.
Most of these are.
It's usually a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Like a fundraiser.
Somebody gonna buy something, somebody gonna pay some taxes.
Absolutely.
Somebody gonna come to us.
And we need all of that. We
Well,
just
anyway,
make sure
I think we have a gist of what we want to try to do with
Yes,
this.
sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
There's
Thank you,
also a
Mayor.
quality of life issue as well.
Quality of life issue.
Oh, yeah.
People do enjoy these events.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we've been
But
doing
it's-
it for a long time. So
But it takes on the same concept as our calling public works or solid waste before you put out trash, a bucks of trash, because everybody don't know that. So they come in at the last minute and say, I'm having a flotilla and I need y'all to help me have this, but it's gonna be next weekend.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we understand what we're
We
dealing
are.
with.
We're on the same sheet.
Okay. Mr. Crawford, you may continue, sir.
Regular agenda legislation, these are resolutions on second reading and final passage, or which will require only one reading. Resolution 56 authorizes the submission of the 2016 Annual Action Plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Resolution 60 authorizes the mayor to make application for grant funding with the Keep Louisiana Beautiful organizations through the Healthy Communities Grant. Resolution 69, ordering and calling a special election in November of 2016 to be held in the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, to authorize the renewal and collection of the 1/4% sales and use tax therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for all other matters in connection therewith.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding these resolutions?
All right.
Let me ask you this, and we just had a tax millage renewal on Saturday, two of them actually. And I know we got to have this.
This is police and fire.
Yes.
I was going to raise my hand and ask you if I could explain that.
If you
Yeah,
please.
Because I knew that question was coming.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, Mayor, I mean, there's a large anti-tax sentiment out here.
absolutely.
And I just want to be comfortable that we can explain it, why we need to do this. Because, I mean, I keep hearing, and it's not really accurate, that we are the most taxed state in the whole world. I mean, but again, please explain what we're dealing with.
Well, basically, of course, this timing is bad. I'll just say that. But we really have no choice but to do it for the November, which is the general election, because our police and fire employees really need this renewed. It's just a renewal. But it is for safety of the citizens in this city. And, if we don't get this, we are going to suffer with lack of, qualified people, because we got to keep them coming. In order to do that, we need to be able to pay them. And of course, this will go to, is it salaries and equipment?
Salaries, benefits, and equipment.
And so it's a safety renewal. And I don't think any other year probably would have been a problem. But because of the renewals we've had this year, this one, also we need to make happen. And we have to do it starting now, because we have to go before the Bond Commission, and we're on a timeline there before you meet again. We need to get it approved before we can go to Bond Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we have to do that in May? Is it May?
It will be, I believe, on the May Bond Commission
Right.
agenda. We have certain timelines that we have to meet with notice requirements and priming to go to bond commission prior to it being sent to the Secretary of State, and then ultimately placed on the ballot for the November election.
And it won't create any expense. You're co-telling the general election. Is that right?
There's not any additional expense to hold the election because the
No.
general election's already being
It's
held.
already, yeah.
It's just classed as a special election in the language because it's not an election that occurs in regular intervals.
I see.
Right, right.
And if I'm not mistaken, since this would be the third time, right, then we wouldn't have to do it anymore.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Right.
It removes the sunset clause.
That,
It effectively removes the sunset clause.
it removes the sunset clause, and we had to do this, unfortunately, in a true special election 5 years ago.
Yes.
So I'm glad to see that we have the foresight to get it on the agenda at the time.
Right. And I'm hoping that,
was
and
a
I can say
scramble.
this, I'm hoping that we'll get the support of our citizens, because this is a true safety issue for us, even though the timing is bad. But you know, we don't have a choice but to try to get this one over the,
I mean, I
over
don't
the
know
goal.
when the timing is good, so when is the good time?
It's better than this year.
I don't know. I think an argument could be made that, you know, certainly there are some bond renewals that have been a subject of heavy discussion, but maybe this gives us a chance to point out to people again, and like Mr. Broussard was saying earlier, I think it is very important. I mean, I heard a lot of people over the weekend either congratulating me or being mad at me about the results of an election that had absolutely nothing to do with anything that I serve on at all whatsoever, because there's a lot of confusion about what governments are responsible for what and who does what with what money. But the city of Shreveport, since 1999, 1998, 99 or so, we've reduced our property tax millage by 30%. I mean, it's a real serious reduction, and even in the last few years, it has been a big chunk of that, you know, so we're not the ones adding, you know, to people's property tax millage, and this would only maintain our current level of what we have anyway. So, you know, to me, the city has been a pretty good example of doing more with less, and this is an area where we've made vast improvements. We've come up with a lot of, you know, we've had a big decrease in our crime rates, and in our first responder times are great. You know, I mean, we've done really good with our public safety departments, and they deserve to be funded. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do, you know? I mean, they're keeping us safe.
And I want to just remind the council, you rolled back taxes last year. That's going to be part of the conversation. You rolled back taxes last year.
Several times in the last few
and,
years.
3 meals, actually. So, you know, we're just trying to maintain this one. And I think it's important for people to know, though, even though we hear the anti-tax voices about how, you know, how we're overtaxed and all of that, many cities call what they do fees instead of taxes. And we're going to try to bring some apple-to-apple comparisons to show that our cost of living here is very, very low. And if you don't invest in your community, you don't get the best quality of life and those safety issues actually addressed. But we have very, very low cost in terms of, you know, quality of life and cost of living. We have people who pay a lot more, but in other arenas, and they don't call them taxes. So we have to really take a look at some of those issues, and we plan to kind of bring some of that when we get finished with our research.
But Mayor, judging from your talk now, I think you're about ready to head to the public.
I am.
But I even seriously, I think if I think we continue, council, if we continue to work together and make things better as we are doing, I think the public confidence in us will continue to grow.
Yes.
I see a confidence out there, Mayor, for the city, and I think, and by the time this renewal comes about, I think we can easily make our case that we've been good stewards
We have.
of city resources, and that we want to continue to provide the services at a level, even at a higher standard that we are now. I think that the citizens will respond to us. So thank you for getting this in a timely, path, and we'll work with you to move this forward.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mrs. Crawford?
Introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to April the 26th, 2016. Resolution 70 authorizes the donation of Shreveport Police Department property, canine dog Kevin. And Resolution 71 authorizes the donation of Shreveport Police Department property, canine dog Monoto. Montano. I say I got that wrong this morning too. Those are both going to the Canine Support Group for the department. Resolution 72 suspends the effects of certain provisions of Chapter 102 of the Shreveport Municipal Code relative to bus fares on Sportram buses for Thursday, June 16, 2016 for a National Dump the Pump Day.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding these resolutions? We will adopt them tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, Mr.
Introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to April 26, 2016. Ordinance 35 amends the 2016 general fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized therein. Ordinance 36 amends and reenacts sections 26-301 of the Code of Ordinances relative to the sale of adjudicated property to adjoining landowners. Ordinance 37 amends and reenacts Article 1 of Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances relative to animal and fowl. Ordinance 38 is a zoning case C-6-16, amends Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Shreveport zoning ordinances by rezoning property located on the north side of Greenwood Road, 2,087 feet west of Burt Coon, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, LA, from RA Residential Agriculture District and RA SPI-2 Residential Agricultural Industrial Park Overlay District to I-1 PUD Light Industrial Planned Unit Development District with preliminary site plan approval.
All right. Councilman Jenkins.
Ordinance 37, the changes to Chapter 14. Can we have, is there a red line copy out there? Or is there something
That's the animal.
I'd like to compare? I mean, I try to go through the two deals. It was hard to figure out what was,
What's really changing for the city?
I mean,
Yeah.
so maybe a red line copy or some kind of executive summary of what we're, essentially agreeing to?
I can provide that for you. Yes, sir.
I mean, is that unreasonable or?
No, I had the same challenge.
Okay. I mean, maybe somebody knows what's it about, but I don't know.
It's a comprehensive look at Chapter 14, so I can provide that.
And I mean, if an executive summary is easier, I take that, whatever we're striving for. Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just as a point, on ordinance number 36, I'm going to request a amendment on that particular ordinance just to include the measurement standard, whether or not the 2,000 feet will be measured door to door or property line to nearest property line. So just be aware of that.
I think that's a good amendment, sir. Thank you. Okay, any other? Mr. Epson?
Can I just ask about the SPAR budget amendment? I mean, I guess I know about the portion for Cargill, but I
thought it was a recharacterization issue of monies, not necessarily.
Yeah, it's not new money. It's
Not
just
new money.
adjusting.
Right. Just moving money around within the
Remind
budget.
me of where that what that's doing.
It's moving money from one sub-object, which was our notes payable or sub-object, over to capital, because where it's classified now, we can't spend it on that type of money, on that type of project. This will do a project at the city courts. I think we talked about it during our budget hearing, and then we'll do the upgrades to Cargill that weren't part of the bond issue.
Okay, and so where it is now in the operating budget, it's considered notes payable?
It was yes, that's where it was budgeted, and you can't spend it unless you're paying for notes, so we need to move it to.
Yeah, so that was something that you would have used for maybe a former finance package of
Actually,
vehicles
what
or
it was
equipment or
actually
something?
it was our Johnson Control contract, where we were making payments on equipment, and we're no longer having to make those payments. We still have our management agreement with Johnson Controls that's paid from
But
a
the
different
debt's
area, but
been
the
paid.
debt for the equipment has now been paid off.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Rabel? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Crawford.
Ordinances on second reading and final passage. I have to go back and scrolling back up on what you were asking, Shelley. Ordinance 31 amends ordinance number 84 of 2015 and 2016 budget for the Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 32 enacting Article 7, Division 7 of Chapter 90 of the Code of Ordinances relative to downtown parking permit zones. Ordinance 33 authorizes the mayor to execute a lease with the Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office for the lease of certain parking spaces. And Ordinance 34A, an ordinance to amend Section 90-197 of the Shreveport City Ordinances to increase the terms and penalties for speeding in a 25-mile-per-hour zone or below speeding zone.
Any questions or comments, Councilman Jenkins?
Okay, I have two. First, on the community development. Okay, so the youth PY16, and I don't know if that means fiscal year, or some kind of, is it the summer jobs program is what we're talking about? Or what is PY16 youth program?
Previous year.
Previous year, that would,
PY16 is probably $100,000 that we were given for summer jobs.
okay, so PY16 refers to the 2016 budget that we've already passed.
Correct. That's probably under the Workforce Investment Program. Their fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th, so they may refer to it as 2015, 2016.
Okay, so under that, we got a grant for $100,000?
From the city, yes.
Okay, hold on a second. But it's not, I mean, is it really a grant from the city, or did the city got a grant from a federal program?
No, this was general fund dollars.
Okay,
And it was approved in the budget,
Budget, yes.
when we did our
In-
budget.
this fall for 20, this is, we got two different
Back in
things.
October, you approved
Approved the
100,000.
$100,000 for this.
Right, so what is this?
What are we doing? That's, I guess, where I'm.
Yes.
We're doing
question.
specifically summer jobs for the Housing Authority and homeless programs. We're making it very much more targeted with case management and other services. And that's what we presented during the budget session.
Okay, but WIOA grant is a federal grant?
It is.
Okay, so we'll dumb it down to marine level here. Is the federal government giving us 100,000 for this program to focus it on this specific aspect?
It's probably
of
listed there because we administer it under the WIO program. That's where we place it in our budget.
But it's really not a federal grant, it's really our, okay.
Correct.
So what we are doing is, we have agreed in our 2016 budget for 100,000 for summer jobs.
Correct.
And we are, of that 100,000, 93,000 is focused on this particular, I'll call it orientation of summer jobs towards a particular program.
No.
So,
I mean, and I may not understand this, so that's,
so Bunny, can you explain what this particular ordinance is designed to do?
That particular ordinance is designed to put on the books programs that were projected in 2015, and the actual funding amount will come in 2016. For example, when we get our federal dollars, we project the amount of our budget. We don't get our actual commitment letter until 2016. So we do a budget ordinance to adjust for the difference, whatever that may or may not be. Additionally, we were trying to align our revenues with our expenses. And third, we were trying to take our prior year expenditures that we did not fund or commit in 2015 and roll them over to 2016.
But I think Oliver's questions were more specific to the amendment, right?
well, no, but I mean, I want to understand what I'm agreeing to when I vote for this. I mean, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. So do we have 100,000 or 93,000 left over from 2015 that we haven't spent, that we're now rolling into 2016?
So it's 93,000 of workforce investment. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but 93,000 of WIA funding was carried over from 2015-16 and placed in this 2016 budget.
Okay, I guess for me, and I don't want to make this seem like I'm doing the grand inquisition here, but I think maybe a letter or
Let me find out
something.
what it is, because I thought I knew.
Okay, no, just
And-
some
and
kind of
bring it
executive
back, and we'll
summary
bring it
that
back
kind of
tomorrow.
explains it. I mean, I don't mean to,
She doesn't have that in front of her.
and, you know, I don't need to write this minute, it's just,
We can get it back to, we'll have it right by tomorrow.
okay, good to go. Just so that I understand it in layman's terms of where the money's coming from and where it's going.
Absolutely.
That's all I'd like to know.
May we bring this one back to you before tomorrow, and we'll let you know what's going on, and we'll let everybody know.
I mean, I think some of us have a grasp on what's going on there, but I appreciate the councilman's inquiry, because he, you know, we need to be clear.
And
So,
we want to make sure that everybody
Yeah.
is clear.
But I think I understand what we're doing here.
Okay.
Hey, Councilor, Jake, you had another inquiry.
I did have another inquiry. Mr. Broussard wanted to speak on ordinance 34A. He may not have gotten his opportunity to put in a request to speak. It is an agenda item, so my request is to suspend the rules and allow Mr. Broussard the opportunity to speak on 34A.
Second, we suspend the rules and allow Mr. Broussard to speak on 34A and discussion. If not, please vote. Mr. Broussard, come forward, please, sir.
I don't know if I can get his paper in or whatever.
Your name and your address for the record, sir.
Rob Broussard, 451 Sanford, Shreveport, Louisiana. In all respect with 34A, with the intent behind the ordinance, with the fines being doubled in those speed limit zones, on our particular street on Sandifer, Fern ties into Sandifer. In one block, it's 35 miles an hour, and within 100 feet, it's 25 miles an hour. We have kids that are cutting from Bird, trying to get to their baseball class at LSUS, and they speed, but they think they're going within 10 miles an hour of the speed limit when they go from 35 to 25, and then we have police officers on Fern in front of my house stopping these cars and writing tickets, and they're more than 10 miles an hour over because the speed limit is now 25. I sat out there the other day when they and watched one police officer. I know she wrote 7 or 8 tickets in 30 minutes, and all of those people were going in excess of 10 miles an hour over, and that's quite a revenue producer right there. I would like to ask that y'all consider that instead of doubling the fines, if you could not impose a civil penalty of having people who speed like that in neighborhoods participate in cleanups or some kind of public service on a Saturday, rather than having that kind of a fine enacted against them. That's a lot of money coming out of one person's pocket, and I question how some people can pay a $300 fine for a ticket, especially if they're a young person, and especially for a parent who has kids, and you know, kids sometimes lose their heads and they speed, and $300 is a chunk of money for speeding. And I think that if you made those young people or people come and do community service in the neighborhood in which they're speeding, it might have just as much of an effect as doubling that fine. So I know it's y'all are about to vote on all this, but if you would please think about that and consider having people do community service instead of doubling the fine. I think you would get to the same end result, and it just wouldn't cost our citizens quite as much money. Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
That's very sensible to think about.
Thank you.
And the reason, no, I don't have a question. Anybody have a question for Mr. Broussard? Because I've received some calls regarding this ordinance, and I didn't pay attention to it initially. And I guess we need the police But this came out of your committee, is that right?
Public
Mr.
safety
Bowman?
needs to probably be brought back.
Huh?
Probably need.
Yeah, we may need to do that, because again, that's the myth that has been attached to this, is that the city's trying to get money. It's all about money. Doubling the fines for 1 mile over the speed limit is about cities trying to get money. We need to try to sort of create something that will eliminate that perception. But I did not realize, and I guess that's true, that you can go from a 25-mile zone to a 35-mile zone, or a 35-mile zone to a lesser zone, and boom, gotcha. But the other thing that came to my attention, Chief, Mayor, can I speak with the Chief?
Yes, sir. And while he's coming, if I may just piggyback, we have other areas, other neighborhoods.
Yes.
Who want us to give those tickets because kids are getting killed. So it's a double whammy for us. In some neighborhoods, they want you to give them those tickets because it sends a tremendous message. Because when you've got little kids, depending on the neighborhood, running across to and fro, and last week we were dinged with some really bad kinds of publicity, in that we got the email saying that we weren't giving tickets for people speeding, and this 2-year-old child got killed, this 4-year-old child it's kind of a yin yang for us. I'll just tell you that.
And first of all, and I think initially it was double, but it's actually 1/2 now, because there was some concern about that it was egregious what we were raising it to. And it's now 1/2. I mean, I'll tell you from one of the people that were involved in this, it is to serve as a deterrent. It is not a revenue generator.
That's right.
For this. It is to deter people. I mean, I must send the chief and Dwayne an email a week asking people hey, can we do something about people slowing down in Broadmoor, Shreve Island, South Highlands? I mean, that's my district, so that's where I'm getting my emails. I'm quite sure everybody else is getting similar tickets about the same thing. And I'm interested in any deterrent that's out there. Speed bumps used to be popular, but we saw how that went very, very bad for our city. And so we need to do something. And if we have some great administrative plan to manage a work group on weekends to, give back to the city, I'm for adding that on top of this as well. Yeah. But I'm interested in more, not less. And I want to stop the problem. That's just my sentiment.
When you hit somebody in the pocketbook, you usually can stop the problem.
Well, Councilman Laurie.
Chief Shaw, your men and women of your department have done everything that we asked, but our phone calls for speeding in neighborhoods and school zone is a constant thing. It's more so in the last 3 months that I have received less on the potholes and more on the speeding in neighborhoods. Your men and women have responded to everything that I asked them to do. But you went out on one particular street, wrote 60-something tickets in 3 days. 48 of those tickets were speeding. And so you leave and then they come back. So it's not that we have got this mandatory number that we want to make a revenue enhancer, because it really doesn't. You can't be everywhere all the time. And so when the committee, Public Safety Committee, the discussion was that we had to motivate people to stop speeding in the neighborhoods and school zones. I have one in particular in my district, Calvary Baptist Church on Linwood. You have been out there so many times, but yet it continues to be a problem. And we can write tickets for blue, and we cut these tickets down from 100% to 50%, thinking about people, because the advice of the committee at that time was that people couldn't pay the tickets, they'd lose a job. 60 Minutes did a story on that, and so we reacted to that to bring them down. So I don't know what we're going to do to stop people speeding, but we've got to do something very soon.
Thank you. Well, I got some calls, and I got 2 this morning. And I hate people to be misguided in their perception of what we take up here at the council. I mean, one of them was simply that I know the city needs money, and they're gonna punish us by, doubling the fines or increasing the fines for speeding 1 mile over the speed limit. I mean, I said, listen, that's not gonna happen. The police officer's gonna use discretion. If the speed limit 25 and you're going 26, I don't see nobody running you down and giving you a ticket. But then the other issue, and it's been somewhat promoted over the radio, and that is it's targeting a certain neighborhoods, which again I dispel, because they claim that, and this is a discussion over the radio, I ain't gonna say what station, by a radio personality, in that more tickets are written in black neighborhoods than in white neighborhoods, and I hate when race is become a part of our debate. Is there any evidence that would show where tickets are written the most at?
We can show you where every ticket is written. I can't stand here today and tell you where they are because I don't have that information with me, but surely every ticket has a date and a time and a location where it was written.
I thought they would be.
And we can find that out. I don't think that is the fact. I think they did a story on that several years ago, and it turned out that wasn't the fact. But as of today, we're willing to go back and give you that information. As a matter of fact, that you brought it up, we will research that and get it to you and the rest of this council of how those tickets are paying out that we've written so far. This notion of revenuing, we don't, as a police department, we don't gain any revenue from any ticket that we write. If we do, it's real, it's not even a cent. Most of that money is gone for the courts, for the marshal's office, the judges, the district attorney, everything except for the police. Because it can't be considered revenue, because we don't write them for that. We write them for public safety. Each officer has their own discretion. Full autonomy. No officer is mandated to write any amount of tickets whatsoever. They see a violation, they can pull them over, and if they're determining that something else is at play, or they determine not to write the ticket, they don't have to. There's nothing that we have that makes them write a ticket. This 25 miles an hour is a sticking point because in every council district, A through F, we have consistent calls from each and every one of you, emails and what have you, about people speeding in the residential neighborhoods. And that's where kids play, and that's where bad things really happen. And so we have to use this as a deterrent. I'm not telling you what to make the fine, but we have to do something other than what we've been doing, because we're getting the same results. And if we don't change, we'll just continue to go down that path of very dangerous behavior. I know 25 miles an hour doesn't sound like a lot of speed, but when you got a 5-year-old kid running from the ice cream truck and gets hit, well, that's a lot of speed. So we're the police department. We're only going to do what we need to do to maintain public safety. If you call us to go to a specific location, if there's a problem out there, we're going to go out and see if there is a problem and take the effective action to try to deter people from speeding and make it safer. But we have no notion of going to specific neighborhoods to write tickets or gain of money. None of that really matters. What matters to us is that it's safe, public safety.
And none of us would debate that with you, Chief. But there also is a thing called, public perception.
Right.
And the public perception is that we're trying to do something to gain money, but we can deal with that. But I think there are options. I think Mr. Broussard's comments, and I know we can't separate speeding and speeding, regardless if it's a youngster or if it's if it's James Flory, okay.
Right.
But I like the idea of looking at options as it relates to the penalty.
That is the penalty phase, and that would be better taken up with the city court judges and people that hand out those deals. We're only going to enforce the laws and ordinances by the state and the ordinances that's created by this panel that's already on the books. We're going to enforce whatever you guys put out there. As far as any kind of administrative penalties where people have to do community service, that's going to have to be done through another mechanism other than us. And I'm not for or against any of it. We're just going to enforce what we need to do based on the laws that are on the books.
And public safety is our responsibility,
Right.
your responsibility, and we're gonna make sure, to the best of our ability, provides public safety. That's unquestionable. So, and I'm gonna let Councilman Everson speak, but I want to ask you, how long would it take to get statistics regarding where tickets are written?
Not very long. I think we, yeah, maybe. We got it in a database, so probably about a week. And we'll get that information to you. That's not a problem.
My next question would be then, is there urgency to pass this legislation? Would you be an objection if I postpone it to next meeting?
That's completely up to this panel.
I mean, there's no urgency to pass this.
No, so that's completely up to this panel. Whenever y'all pass it or not pass it, we're going to enforce those laws that you do.
That's already on the book, because that's
Right.
already laws on the
It's
book.
already
Say,
laws
you
on
know,
the books.
if
You know,
you
so
speed, you're gonna get a ticket.
Yeah, so you're talking about the penalty phase, but we don't.
No, I mean, I'm interested in finding out if there any validity to the fact that a certain citizen a certain neighborhood get more tickets written than others. I really would like to know that.
And by the way, if you ever decide that there is, you're happy to write more tickets in my district. I got no problem with that. If you're looking for a little extra ticket giving, come over on my side. 'Cause I'm not going to complain.
I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, Councilman Everson.
Just,
Oh, I'm sorry, wait, hold on one
Just
second, I'm
as-
sorry, wait, one second.
and
Yes.
based on the emails that I get, and I get them from him and I get them from all of you.
Sure.
I would say the majority of them come from Councilman Jenkins, Councilman Fleury, and Councilman Corbin.
Okay.
The majority of them. And we only write tickets to reduce injury accidents. We learn that in every law enforcement school we go to. But we spend a great deal of our time in the neighborhoods when I would rather have our traffic units sitting at Spring and Lake and at 70th and Uri and the places where we have accidents in this city where people get hurt. I would much rather them do that. But people in the neighborhoods constantly calling. I'm getting calls from you. We've got to respond to that. So we're doing what I would rather us not do, but we've got to respond to the citizens that pay our salaries. So that's what we're doing. We'd rather not. We talked about what could we do about it. The only thing we could do about it was create a greater deterrence. We saw that with handicap parking. We saw that with yard parking. This council and a previous council decided what would reduce it. Well, when you make the penalty a little heavier, people think a little more. And it had the desired effect in handicap parking, and it had the desired effect in front yard parking. We don't get as many complaints. That's the only reason we started talking about it to begin with, so hopefully we've answered that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Councilman Everson.
Just as a point of, for the record, it is illegal to go 1 mile over the speed limit right now, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so we're not making it any illegaler for anybody out there.
You're not.
It's already illegal. All we are doing is making it matter more to somebody by, raising the fine. And that is the point, is to get you in compliance with the law. We don't want you to be going 2 miles over the speed limit, 5 miles over the speed limit, 25 miles over the speed limit. We want you to go to the speed limit. It's the limit. You can drive under it, and you're guaranteed to not get a ticket. You will never have to pay this fine if you obey the law. If you drive under the speed limit, you will never have to pay it, and that is guaranteed. So, I mean, it's not that hard to not incur this expense. All you have to do is obey the law. So, I mean, I realize that we are not, and I realize there are some disproportionate burdens that this puts on, certain populations, low-income populations. And I would like to see us have some diversionary method of addressing situations like that. But when it comes to the argument of why is the city trying to do this, the city is trying to do this to keep people safe and to get people to follow the law because they're not following it now, and if they're not following it, then why do we have speed limits? Just let it be whatever.
And to be responsive to what the citizens want.
Absolutely. I mean, I've certainly heard from both sides in my district. I've got people who feel both ways about this issue. Although I will say the vast majority of people I've heard from are happy to hear that their kids will be safer on the streets and that their people will not speed down their streets as much because people don't like people speeding down their streets. Now, I live in kind of the heart of my district is kind of the heart of the city, and so what Dwayne was saying about where they need to be is oftentimes in my district anyway. I mean, there's a few streets I get reports from that are sort of, further out that maybe don't get as many tickets. But I mean, a lot of people get tickets in my neighborhoods anyway if they're on cut-through streets, because we all know people take cut-through streets in this town. And thank God they're not driving like that anymore, because dangerous things happen. And, people get hurt. And I got a 4-year-old myself. He goes to an ice cream truck. It breaks my heart to see a 4-year-old die, I mean, it's not something we should joke about or whatever.
It's a serious undertaking. Council Clerk.
Do we have areas that it would go from 35 to 25 and the environment doesn't appear to change and therefore would appear to be sort of like entrapment? Do you have any of that?
Yeah.
Well, we have some of those streets, we'd have to get with the city engineer to figure out where they are. I can't tell you where they are, but yeah. Speed limits change all over the city.
I know, but I mean, does the environment change? Are we still in the neighborhood that goes from 35 to 25?
There shouldn't be any residential speed limit of 35 miles an hour.
And that's right, 35.
But in occasions, it depends on what the
And nobody's doing 35.
It could be 35. It's a,
Because it's a big
somebody just has to find out where it is.
But it should be posted at 25.
It should be posted in the residential area. It should. Every neighborhood should be 25.
And of course, per the ordinance, the presumption is if it's not posted.
Okay.
The city attorney wanted to.
I wanted to throw a few tidbits out as well. I kind of put on my other hat. Most of the time you see me in the administrative capacity, but from the prosecuting side, one of the things that the ordinance does is provide us with a better grasp on how to enforce tickets that the police department writes.
Okay.
Because oftentimes, the police department has discretion, we have discretion with the prosecuting of our dockets, and so, this is not. I'd like to dispel any kind of perception that this is a revenue generating mechanism. This is strictly, I think, as Councilman Everson said, for deterrence. And one of the things that we struggled with when this initially hit the Public Safety Committee meeting was how laughably low our fines were in the first place. And this is trying to bring it more in line with kind of a state average or at least an average with our neighbors of what you can expect to incur in the way of fines, not only court costs, but fines for speeding. And like was said previously, 1 mile over is 1 mile over. And, do we want to encourage breaking of law? I don't think that's the case. And so, as this is given consideration, again, it is a 1/2 increase, not a doubling, in any 25 mile per hour zone. And I do think that it's doing exactly what it's intended to do. It's making the public more aware and conscious of the fact that they need to be observant of their surroundings, of posted speed limits, and to understand the law. Because the first thing we learn in law school is that ignorance of the law is no excuse. You have to be aware of the laws in the city you live in. And so I take it very seriously as a prosecutor, the fact that in our office that, my traffic docket is lengthy because people ignore speed limits. And this is a mechanism that will help deter that activity.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me just end by saying, Chief, and Jeff kind of brought it to my enlightenment in that one of the calls I got, again, regarding black neighborhoods versus white neighborhoods, and I started giggling in a second. I said, wait a minute, so that means that, well, let me ask you this first. Are there anybody that are given a ticket who's not speeding? No.
No, you're talking about.
I'm being facetious in saying so. So the guy who called me this morning was saying that that all of us breaking the law, but we just getting more of the tickets.
Right.
Which is, again, it's sort of. But anyway, I could certainly.
I'm okay with that.
The argument has been made that we are not doing anything other than trying to protect our citizens.
We're going to get that to you. Also, what you have in front of you is our annual book from 2015. And as you peruse in there, it has that we wrote 35,000 traffic tickets last year, which is actually down about 10,000 from the year before. And the reason for that is because last year we had ungodly amounts of rain between January and March. And typically officers don't write traffic tickets when it's storming. We had 3 months of that, so that's the only thing that we can attribute it to. But typically we run around 42,000 a year, but this year we only had 35,000. As you will look through it, it's all kind of good information in this book that talks about some of the things that we accomplished last year as far as crime goes. we always get sidetracked to a degree about whether or not we're fighting crime and fighting it well. And if you look in the book, we did a comparison for the last 46 years. If you look at the graphic in there, and you look at where we are now, 2015, back to 2010, the only thing you can compare it to is 1970 to 1976. And so that is that high bell curve in the middle. That's where we used to be. And this, if you look on the other end, where crime has decreased, that's where we are today. And thanks in part to the hard work of the men and women of the Shreveport Police Department, of course, and also the leadership of the mayor, as well as the support of this council. Guys, we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. It's by no means a perfect world that we live in, but compared to some of our sister cities, they would gladly change places with us. Because we get those phone calls wanting to know what are we doing that they are not doing that can help them. And so we entertain those calls and try to help others. But again, if you get an opportunity, just read through this and it gives you some additional information about what we've done.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you for the discussion. It's very, wait a minute.
What? No, not for them.
Not for them. You go away. You, Councilman.
But I do think I do want to end one thing that was brought up that is good about this discussion is, you know, for it to be a deterrent, it needs to be out in the public domain.
That's right.
And so our discussion here hopefully is getting media coverage, and, you know, people will hear about it and respond accordingly as the deterrent is, you know, intended to direct.
Right.
So I think that is a positive, other than just everybody, you know, voting yes on an ordinance. At least we get it out there in the public domain that what we're focused on, and we want to respond to our constituents in this manner. And so I think it's great that we have media coverage covering it and us having a lengthy discussion about it.
Thank you, sir, and I agree wholeheartedly. Mayor?
If I can say one last thing, by the way, the unfortunate accident with the 4-year-old was not because of speeding. I want to make sure we go on record saying that. It was not because of speeding.
Yes, ma'am.
However, we do get those calls when we have small youngsters playing in neighborhoods, and they want people to write the tickets because they are trying to, and it's not to generate money,
Yes.
but once again, it is to protect the citizens and make sure we can have safe neighborhoods.
Right.
Okay?
And again, that's why I think we have the 7 council districts and administration, because we bring different perspectives. I have only had, and since I've been on the council, I've only had 2 complaints about speeding in my district. Now, there have been others who called directly, but all of them had 2.
Right.
And they've both been addressed, but I have not had the chronic speeding like these other council districts have had.
Would you like me to forward you some, or do you
No,
feel like you're
I'm
getting
fine.
left out? Because
I
got a couple
got
of
other issues that I have to deal with. We all have our specific issues, so, and that's why, you know, I appreciate, and I'll speak on that in a minute as it relates to the mayor's annual first year report. I thought we had met since you did that, and that was a very, again, impressive, good report that showed how individual districts was addressed with their specific needs and challenges. So, but anyway, we're gonna move forward. I'm sorry, Councilman.
We met on that a couple of times already, and that was a deterrent.
On the speeding?
Yeah, and that was a deterrent for, I mean, going from doubling to half.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's for public safety, so I think that, I mean, if something else arises, then we can go back and maybe add something, or maybe ask the courts something as far as being, you know, lenient, or, you know, something different as far as teenagers or something like that, but I don't see pushing this off another.
No, I would draw I would draw that, Mr. Bowman, only because, again, it did not register to me immediately when they were saying we speeding, they speeding, but they writing us more. But I mean, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. You know? But again, going 1 mile over the speed limit is at the discretion of the officer. I drive to Dallas. I'm glad the Texas State Police.
Yeah, Willie, you fly.
A lot. I see that you have to say that publicly. But anyway. But you know, it's all good. We got to do what we need to do. That many complaints are coming in. We got to respond. All righty. Table legislation, Mr. Clerk, we don't,
I'm not aware of any to be withdrawn from the table.
okay. All right, well, we don't have no appeals?
None.
No, we do
Let's
not.
get administration a hand. Where's that?
Goodness.
That's
Cleaned up the
fantastic. Thank you.
entire
So we can
city.
go home in a minute.
Man, doing good.
We've been home 30 minutes ago.
We started on time.
All righty. No appeals, so we'll hear from any officers, board, and committee reports. Any boards or commissions?
Mr. Chairman, we'll be scheduling the infrastructure meeting, the next, I believe it's the 26th, the next council meeting, and you'll be getting notice on that.
Thank you. Any other councilman? If not, Mayor, you have any communication at this
Not
time?
at this time, thank you.
Any councilman have any? Councilman Fleury?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Members of the council and Mayor Tyler, and I wanted y'all to be aware that Southwood High School is on the upward trend. They're going to be celebrating concert in the courtyard, I believe Friday night at 6 o'clock with their orchestra, which has a #1 rating in the United States, I believe. And I just want to share with you that our CAO is a former graduate of the Southwood Cowboys. And we're
Plan on being there.
and we're planning on being there, I understand. So I hope the public will, there's still a few tickets left, and that's Friday night at 6 o'clock. We're so proud of Southwood High School and the progress that they're making and will continue to make. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, and congratulations to Southwood. And to the school board for getting their millage passed so we can continue to educate our children. Because a lot of people don't understand, education in the city is partners.
Absolutely.
Man, when people call, they want to look at Shreveport, do they ask about the education district?
First thing, that's one of the first things they ask about.
So it's in our interest to have a good educational system in this town. Mayor, I got 3 issues I want to bring to you. Number 1 is I want to congratulate you on the report that was disseminated throughout the city. A lot of positive feedback on that. And thank you for working with the council.
Thank you.
I think, again, that we work pretty well. We don't have one of those other, used to be things.
No, sir,
that
we're not
laughing
gonna
over
have that. I won't participate in any of that.
You won't participate anyway, huh? Okay, so we're gonna try to keep it away from this council. We're here to take care of city business.
Absolutely.
The next thing, Mayor, and I want to request a meeting with you and the CEO and your fire chief.
Okay,
And it's in reference to a phone call I received.
okay.
And if you would arrange that for me, I
We
appreciate
will
it.
do it. We will do it.
But the most thing that I want to ask you, because there's a public standards committee meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. And with this early spring and the grass is out of control. I mean, grass is everywhere. And we're getting a lot of calls and requests for service as it relates to grass cutting in there and around the city.
Absolutely.
And I know it's going to take a while, but and I want to bring this up in the meeting tomorrow. Is there anything we can do to do a first cut around the city? I know, I mean, do we have enough throughout our grass cutting departments? I know several have that responsibility. If we can do a first cut so that people don't have to wait until May or June to get their first cut, can we schedule some type of first cut to get it out the way and then everybody be somewhat?
We already
Mr.
doing
Chairman,
that.
we've been cutting grass for a month already. We're way ahead of where we were last year. We've already cut 25% of what we cut in all of 2015, from SPAR to Public Works to property standards, from right-of-way cutting to whatever there is. The contractors are working, the in-house crews are working diligently, and Mike, if you want to come up and address any of it
Yeah,
specifically.
because I would like to know how you scheduling cutting. Is it request only or by need?
No. It's not requesting. I'll let Mike talk about it. If it's
Okay.
property standards, it's violations, obviously, that we cut. If it's a right-of-way, there's a schedule that the right-of-ways are cut on. So, Mike, you want to address it?
Yes,
If
sir.
I
Go ahead,
could,
Mary.
before Mike
Yes, ma'am.
begins, a lot of and I've been getting some of those calls and emails, some of the properties that people are saying don't belong to us. They're not adjudicated properties, they're private property, and we have to do due diligence in notifying those owners before we go and start cutting and charging them. So I want people to know that. I believe with our properties, and we've had each department that does any cutting, we're all coordinating our efforts now, because we have like 3 or 4 different departments that really cut grass and address those kinds of issues. And we have all of those people working in tandem. I think you're going to see a better product later. But a lot of the things that I've been notified about, and I'm out there all the time, and people stop me everywhere I go, they tell me about the neighbor, the business next door that didn't cut the grass. And it's not really a city issue, except for after we have done the proper notification, then when we cut the grass, or whatever we need to do to clean off the property, then we have to go after the money. So I think a lot of it has to do with that. Now, I do know that we got a lot of grass growing, and we got a little behind with all the flooding. And when all the flooding came about, we weren't able to really do a lot of cutting. But after the flooding, the grass just flourished. So we have a plan in place, and we'll ask Mike to talk about it, but we want to make sure that we can address whatever those concerns are.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've been, in the past, property standards, streets, drainage, all of us has kind of had separate areas. And what we've tried to do this year is combine those efforts so that we're helping each other. Right now, property standards, for instance, is going out, and all of this behind Millennium and in that area, we've mowed all of that and cut it. Well, then streets and drainage is coming in behind and spraying a retardant on it so that the grass won't grow quite as fast. But the situation is that grass grows all over the city. We can only mow where we can mow. So we've started mowing, like CAO said, several weeks ago. And we're mowing every day that it's not raining. And most of it, the inner city, we have contracted out. Those guys are doing a better job this year than last year. I think you'll see an improvement this year. It's never going to be perfect. It's like the mayor says, we're always going to have people that won't mow their grass. My neighbor across the street, I have to nag him all the time. But that's just where we are.
And my reasoning for saying first cut. I live on Independence, right off of Curtis Lane.
Yes, sir.
And between Curtis Lane and I-220, I think this may be the third cut. They did it last week. But in some areas of MLK and Allendale Lakeside, there has not been any cut. So I'm asking, how do you monitor, how do you decide what's going to get cut? If that's being cut for the third time this year and some other areas have not been cut one time, which need cutting,
I can't answer that for you right now, but I'll sure find out.
Okay,
I'm not sure how that
and then tell me what percentage of the areas have been cut, you think, already?
I can look into that and
it's
say,
overdue.
I'll give you an answer.
But I was out there, I'm like, this grass don't need cutting, there's some other grass need cutting. You know what I'm talking about, along Lake Shore?
Yes, sure.
Okay. This is the third time this year it's been cut, and I'm like, this is not in dire need of cutting. So look at that for me.
We'll go to some other areas.
And Mr. Chairman, you're talking about right-of-ways, correct?
Yes.
Right now, okay.
I'm talking about right-of-ways,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
The right-of-way between Lakeshore Drive, I mean, it's on Lakeshore,
Right.
between Lakeshore and Interstate 220.
But it's getting cut, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, yeah, but it didn't need cutting. Some other areas need cutting.
I understood you perfectly.
Okay.
Councilman, we're just
wanna
trying
make
to
sure
please
I'm
you, that's all.
Well, thank you, sir, I appreciate that. Let's spread the cutting.
And I was trying not to say anything because I was trying not to say anything because Mike did get to it after I sent it to him. But it took me taking it. I live across the street from a median. There's a median on my block, and the grass was up to my waist. I mean, I had to stand in that grass and take a picture of it and send it in and say, "Can we get the contractor out here?" I mean, my neighbors had already gone out and mowed a full block of it. Another guy was having a party. He mowed enough to where his guests wouldn't see how terrible it looked. We had a guest in town and we were ashamed of it. I mean, neighbors were complaining to me left and right for like a couple weeks. And I get it was raining and I get they're contracted out. You know, it's hard to manage. But these things do have an impact on us, you know, and it was frustrating. But at least I can say this: the councilman does not get special treatment. I mean, that at least is for sure. So,
he got cooking and didn't even eat cooking.
He's out calling you out because you're cutting it too much. I mean, once again, I'll tell you another thing. Not only do I want tickets in my district, I'll take as many lawnmowers in my district as I can. I'm all for it.
But I just want to spread the cutting, that's all. I'm not at all commending them on.
Things are rosy up in District 8, not down.
If I get a complaint, I have to, see, people think the city council could dispatch a cutter. They think we can do anything.
And let us do this. We need to identify areas better, and we'll work on the plan of identifying areas that really are not getting the number of cuts that they're supposed to get. And that's hard to do when you're depending on certain folks, but we'll try to nail that down and do a better job.
Thank you, I know we will.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other business? Any councilman? Any other business? If there's no other business before this body, we stand adjourned.
Man, I mean, it must be the promised ground.